tell me that we can't provide a good healthcare system guaranteeing healthcare to all of our people. Don't tell me that we can't have an excellent child care system and a great educational system in this country. Don't tell me that this great country and our young people cannot lead the world in transforming our energy system so the planet we leave to our kids and our grandchildren is one that is habitable. Don't tell me we can't do that. We can do that. It embarrasses me to tell you about what these other countries are doing for their people. They're not doing it. But in order to do that, we do need a political revolution. Let me just simply tell you what that means. It means that you can't have elections, as we did last November, where 63% of the people don't vote, where 80% of young people don't vote. And anyone who tells you that politics is not important, you ask them why the Koch brothers are going to spend $1 billion on this election. Involvement in the political process is what patriotism is about. If we do that, man, we can create a country the likes of which no one has ever seen.
Hey everybody. Oh geez, I didn't mean to put Job in there right away. Man, I messed up the whole thing. This is a stream-a-thon and that's what happens. Hey, got a second. We don't want to hear the Laura Flanders show. That's Richard Wolf. Hi, welcome. This is Stream-a-thon part 1-ish, starting today for Arizona, Idaho, and Utah. Thank you all for being here. And that was a nice little opener with Bernie Sanders. Don't tell me. Don't tell me. I love that. It's like enough is enough. It's just don't tell me we can't do this. Don't tell me we're Americans. We are Americans. Right? Don't tell me we can subsidize universal health care for other countries, but not make it happen here. Right? We'll talk about that. That's an interesting story. I talked about that earlier, but that's not why we're here right now. First, I want to say hello to everybody. We've got, wow, boom, like 80 people watching already. Hi, how are you doing? It's going to be a long day. Long day. But that's okay. We have a lot to talk about. So very exciting things have happened in the last couple hours. Some really amazing things have started to gel together for the political revolution, for Bernie Sanders, and we're going to talk about that. Job, is that your notifications? That ding? It's a great ding, but it comes through nice and clear and shiny. And actually, nobody can hear that yet, so this is a good thing. I don't have the audio turned on, so we will remember to do that, like when you hear Scott say nothing or I do a Charlie Chaplin moment. I know you guys love those. But we're going to talk about an amazing platform. We have one of the founders, co-creators of this platform. Okay, this is placeavote.com. And this is some pretty amazing stuff. And before we bring the founder, co-creator on, I suppose I should crop his shot well and make him look halfway decent, which is something I'm supposed to do before we even bring him on. But you guys know how this works. I've been flying by the seat of my pants since the newsroom this morning. I had a conversation with the guys doing the Democracy Spring, and then I had a conversation with some other people about it. We're just putting some amazing things together. The Sanders campaign is kicking ass and taking names. We are going to sweep 3 states today, and we've got the foundation for the app for democracy put in place. And right now, we are going to speak with the founder, co-creator, Job Melton of Place a Vote. Hi, Job. How you doing today? See, I did it, folks. Now say I'm doing great.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
There. Thank you. One of these days, Job, I'm actually going to have an audio tech and a place to put all of this stuff. As I was telling you, this is a volunteer movement. We've been working together since the beginning. But guys, Job has built something that I have been fantasizing about for quite some time, and we've been talking about it. This is Place a Vote. It is a system, and Job, I'm going to let you just give us the elevator speech here. But people, the bottom line is this is where you and your politician are going to become connected. Job, explain Place a Vote.
All right, I think I'll give you a bit of a background. It's important that people realize that 1/3 of our government is the third that's supposed to represent us in Congress, and we have an option to fire them every 2 years if we need to. So Place a Vote really looks at that branch of government and every piece of legislation before Congress, and it puts it out to registered voters and gives us the opportunity to securely read, debate, and eventually vote on every issue, and then we give that information to our representatives in Congress.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So is it that simple? I mean, it sounds at one way it sounds amazingly simple. Another way, I'm like, how are you going to do that?
Yeah. So, I mean, the concept is simple. How are we doing it? Well, we have candidates running across the U.S. We have candidates contacting us every day, expressing an interest to make the use of Place a Vote part of their platform. We have some sitting reps who are willing to adopt the technology to use it to inform their vote. They're not committing to vote necessarily the will of the majority of their constituents, but they're at least willing to engage the constituents and take that into consideration. But our candidates are pledging to run on the pledge that when they get in office, they're going to spend every bit of their congressional budget resources for engaging constituents, to actually engage constituents and connect with them and inform them about the legislation, and then elicit their feedback through Place a Vote.
Okay. And how do they know? How are you connecting this electronically? How do they know it's me? I guess.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, that's a great question. So the first level of verification is when a user logs on, they're going to claim their identity from the voter file, and that's the first level. So if you're registered to vote, then you could find your identity there. There'll be various measures to ensure that you are who you say you are. You'd have to have some privileged information to claim your voter file. Then the second level, and what I see as the most important level, is the authentication that comes through a public key. So the candidates who are running are committing to send that public key. It's a randomly generated key out to every registered voter in their district. So a combination with your private information and your public key is what secures you as who you say you are. So it'd be really hard to game that system, because you'd have to basically go get mail at everyone's house you're trying to game, use that key, log on, and make that connection.
Exactly. Job, they're saying if you could lean back for us, lean back a bit, because the mic is really hot. They want to hear what you have to say, but it's coming. Remember, we were trying to adjust this. We're going to get you a good microphone. Guys, we're going to be talking to Job and the rest of his team a lot, because my goal is to integrate with this technology. So I want to back up a bit. So you're basically saying, everybody understand that our voter information is on file with the federal government, right?
Yeah, every state, Secretary of State has that.
Okay, so, and this is, forgive me, Job, you know a lot more about this than I do, and my audience probably knows more about this than I do. I'm an absolute idiot with how our government process works. One of the reasons I created this was to learn, right? So you guys have tapped into this database. So when I sign in to Place a Vote, it's gonna say, okay, you're John Ellis. There's some things I need to do. It's gonna go out, find me, verify that I'm me. It's gonna contact my federal representatives, right? This is not right now. This doesn't function with state level representatives.
No.
Okay. So just to make that clear, everybody, right now we're working with the federal representatives. And they know that a constituent has logged in if they opt into this system, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, before we get to the big question, I'm waiting for. I know we've got some questions coming up, but before we get to the bigger question, which is, why would a politician do this? I think we can answer that with, what's in it for the politician?
Okay. Well, I think at one level they realize we are the source of their power, and so knowing what their constituency wants on a very general level, they spend a lot of money on surveys when, say, a piece of say controversial or legislation that may tend to divide the voter base. They spend a lot of money on surveys. So basically, by us having this ongoing communication for sitting reps, they'll have access to our will, and that'll empower them to make the right choices. And so we have a list of congressmen who seem to really want to represent their constituency. They have a history of voting record of doing that, and that's our first target. We have a sitting rep who's going to go live shortly after our first launch.
Really?
And he'll get to announce that himself. Maybe we'll get him on your show when he does it.
That would be awesome, Joe.
Yeah.
I just want to make that clear. Everybody understand. So we've been working with candidates on We the People, and I said I would check to make. I'm pretty sure we don't actually have a sitting rep.
Yeah.
We're talking about a sitting representative that is willing to turn on, to engage with this system. And we will know, hopefully, folks, we'll have them on the show, but they are going to make this announcement themselves as to who they are. And sorry, when is that going to happen?
We don't know yet. We've got to work that out. My guess is it'll probably likely be after the primary.
Okay, after the primary. But think about this, folks. Doesn't matter when it happens. And here I'm really messing up with the comments. I'm turning on the comments now, folks. I had to find them. It was buried in a sheet. So this is important. I just want everybody to understand that months ago, and before I knew you, Joe, we were talking to Tom Fegan and Paul Schaefer about this very idea, and Tom and all the candidates that we've had on We the People have all indicated an interest in this kind of system, right? And so I know for a fact that they will all pledge to be a part of your system should they become sitting reps, okay? But we've talked to both state and federal candidates, so I don't know which is which. Tom is a federal candidate. But the problem we had was how do you get candidates to buy in? Right?
Yeah. Candidates or representatives?
Well, how do you get once they become representatives? How do you get them to buy in? What makes them want to do this? And I think the answer is beautiful. So tell everybody what they're gonna. I mean, what they access.
Well, they know their constituents' will on every issue before Congress. They know where their constituents stand. So I imagine when they get to the House floor and they have to make a decision, they're always thinking about how is this going to affect me politically. Well, they'll know at that moment. And so if we can organize enough and communicate loudly enough our will, they're going to have no choice but to listen. Awesome. And that's the sitting reps. And they like that. I mean, it's an inexpensive way for them to know the will. Right now, I always say all these candidates try to convince us that they're going to represent us, but they don't even really offer a solution as to how they're even going to know what we want.
Right.
Well, there's no systematic way of us even communicating to our Congress for them to represent us. Right. So the only group that systematically communicates their will are those that are given privileged access. And with today's technology, that shouldn't even be the case. I think if our founding fathers, we joke on our dev team, that if our founding fathers had the technology that we have today, I'm sure our structure would have looked a lot different. We probably would have had, a computer database compiling our will, and we could generate our own legislation and submit it and vote and get it done.
Absolutely. It would look a lot. It would be much more organized, wouldn't it? It would be our system functions like it's the 1850s.
Exactly.
We have when we have people that when I saw ghost voting, I died. I was like, "You kidding me? This is how some of our people choose. They reach across the table with sticks.
Oh yeah.
People's buttons to vote." I'm like, we need a real system. It's the 21st century. We're flying around in space, folks. It's time we had a system of government that allows real-time communication. This is it. And to me, if I were a politician, I would want this data. I want to know. I want to know because you could use it for such sentiment analysis across the board. I mean, you were just at the beginning. You're at the tip of the berg with what you can do with data analysis. You really want to get the sentiment of the people. That could be had with a lot more than just a vote and a comment. When we integrate this, if this were to integrate with social, a candidate would be like, wow, people pissed off at me. Looks like I better do some changes.
Yeah.
I mean, you should be able to find out what is going on. You bring up the best statement. How do they even know when the only people with access to the information or the only people reporting the story are the establishment elite?
Yeah.
So the politicians hear what the media spews, but it's just a regurgitation cycle. There's absolutely no truth coming back into the message, Well,
and they hear what, organized efforts to communicate their will to Congress. I mean, all the lobbyists that show up at their door every day telling them what to do.
Yep.
Generating the legislation at times. So I look forward to a time where we get to crowdsource our creation of our own legislation. I mean, it's a pretty libertarian view, really, when you think about it, is that we get to be in charge of our own destinies and we get to have say in it. It's pretty amazing.
We're supposed to in the first place.
Yeah, liberty, right? Give me liberty or give me death.
They're supposed to represent us,
Yeah.
not make obtuse assumptions based on a meeting between elites.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, so if we give them a direct means and they do not accept that direct means, then we get rid of them, which is basically what we're doing this year. You either jump on the bandwagon of the 21st century and Bernie Sanders and transparency, openness, communication in real time with the people that you're supposed to give a shit about, or you're gone.
Yeah. I mean, this is the most transparent you can be. Every piece of legislation they're looking at, we get to look at.
Yep. Absolutely. And it should. That's the way it should be.
Yeah.
And any establishment politician that tells you it can't, or that's not the way it is, well, then we just need to change it. That's same thing we were told by the British a couple hundred years ago.
Yeah.
And we basically said, right? So
what was
now let's go into the big, so we've got a bigger question now, because this all sounds great, and it sounds neat that we'll have politicians connected and they'll want to do this and we'll have people, but I don't want my data. I don't want that. Where's the security here? Something's going to break. Somebody's going to tap into this.
Yeah.
How are you going to keep people from jacking the data and making it seem one way or another?
Okay, so two questions there. I'm hearing one is user profile information and how is that protected? And then the second, probably I would guess would be the most important, is how do we make sure the system's not being gamed?
Yep.
So this is what taps into blockchain technology, and that public key is critical for this, because that randomly generated anonymous public key gets posted to a ledger that is housed on the blockchain, so anyone can audit it. They could audit their votes. Third parties could emerge based on interest, and people could share with those third parties the ability to audit their vote on their behalf. So transparency is really important. So when I vote, let's say yes on Assembly or House Bill 4228, then I can look at my public key and see that it came across as a yes. And so that is going to be tallied. It's really simple. It's just an accountable ledger.
Okay. So that takes care of that.
So they'd have to log on to every account to really game it, which would be pretty difficult from a systemic point of view.
It would. I suppose you could create some kind of a program to do that, possibly, but I think that would. And this would definitely be. I mean, you guys. This is an active live monitoring system, right? I'm assuming this would need to be treated as such. You can't.
Yeah.
It's not a set it and forget it kind of thing. This is going to require people to actively monitor and maintain and all of that kind of stuff, right? And so that was security question one, and I'll accept that for an answer for now. What about two? So
the developers are all bank level security, so it's at least as secure as your banking account. Yeah. I mean, it's the same wide scale encryption, end-to-end encryption, so it's pretty protected in that regard.
So you have secure as an Apple iPhone, so the FBI want to.
Well, actually, that's a funny story, but I'll let the architect talk about the FBI. We have a story with that. But yeah, it's pretty secure. Just as much as that, it's end-to-end encryption.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm guessing if you guys are writing stuff for banks, if you're able to protect money, which is the most precious element and resource on this planet, apparently, then you're probably good enough protecting voter data, which we seem to not give a shit about for the most part.
Well, for one, everyone has to realize that that's public domain information already. As soon as you register to vote, every Secretary of State has your address, your party, whether or not you were a voter in the last 3 elections, maybe even more. So all that information's out there. So that is just a matter of checking against a database.
Okay. All right, that makes sense. And how do we prevent people from? What about creating fake accounts or,
that's
numbers?
Okay, that's a great question. So going back, that first level of authentication is against the voter files. So yeah, theoretically, somebody could go and claim multiple voter files, but that's not going to be tallied in the total vote until they get that second level, which is verified by something, a secure token that comes to their address that they then need to take a step to link to their private information on the site. So, so theoretically someone could do that, but it would have no advantage because it's not going to be tallied in the total vote, because we don't want it to skew. We only want those double verified IDs to be what gets tallied.
All right.
Does that make sense?
All right. Yeah, no, it absolutely does. It absolutely does. Let's hold there. There's some questions here that have been coming through that I should have addressed earlier, and I want to hit them. So first, Terrence Strait, candidates. So hi, Terrence. Terrence is a candidate we've had on We the People, and I don't remember where you are, Terrence, but thank you for showing up, and I'd love to have you back on. But Terrence is a candidate who I know would definitely pledge to be a part of your system. And he says candidates can actually purchase those voter files, which is great news. Thank you for that piece of information, Terrence. Drop in the chat where you're running, and I will let everybody know. But Terrence Strait, everybody, fantastic bureaucrat that we've had on We the People, in the chat with us today. Annie F., question for you. I subscribe. If I don't have a smartphone, can I use it for my computer?
Yes. Actually, the first launch is going to be a web-based, computer-based launch. Any glitches or anything that needs to be worked out, we'll do that, and then we'll put it out on the mobile. So we want to dial it in on web first, and right now we're building both the mobile and the web, but web is what's going to come out first.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the whole point. We really want to open access to everyone.
Great, absolutely, that's wonderful. And I just want to say, I saw a message in the lower third there from, I want to say, Bernard. This is Job Melton, everybody. He is co-creator, founder of placeavote.com, which is the framework, in my opinion, the base framework for the Democracy app. And we are talking to him today because we are super excited about what he's created and the opportunity it affords us in our democracy. So thank you for that, MJ Taylor. The question. Oh no, Annie F. Here's another question. This is a good question. MJ Taylor asks, how will we know what is in the whole bill? Some bills are thousands of pages, and a lot of that's just shit. I added that part.
I like that. Well, that hits a nail on the head. This is a beautiful question. So yeah, thousands of pages of bills. Our representatives don't even read them, but just imagine when we have hundreds of thousands of people looking at pieces of that bill, and those people begin to synthesize key points. They identify gaps. They crowdsource the analysis of that legislation. That's what we're really looking for long term. So we can take this big, complex, burdensome, confusing, convoluted legislation, and we have people highlighting things. We have people saying, hey, wait, this might have this impact on my industry or my livelihood, or this might have this impact on the environment. This is going to have this impact. And so when we start to get all those people bringing this information together, we'll have a nice comprehensive view of it. It's, how does
that's fantastic.
Just thousands of people looking at that. So maybe we just read a page of it and it sparks a question like, how are they going to pay for this? Or how is this going to impact this? And we have all these different people looking from different angles, asking different questions, bringing in their answers. We're going to have a comprehensive understanding of things.
Okay, so I want to this is beautiful. So you just answered that. I want to ask the next question and answer it with you.
Okay.
We were talking about this earlier, about how do we do this piece. Okay, and the next question is from Roshiu. How do you streamline the system so that people don't need to go through thousands of pages of legalese? Now, that sounds like a similar question, but what we're really saying here, okay, is now we know that we have a way. So I love your explanation. Everybody could take a piece. Everybody could read a part. It's crowdsourced. Somebody goes, hey, wait a minute, on page 15,011, it says we're going to turn babies blue. How do we do that? Because, they put weird shit in these things. All right, we're going to give John McCain $1 million because he's McCain. We do these things.
Yeah.
How do we now? The real question is, how do we synthesize this down into what makes sense, what's bullshit, what we like, what we don't like? How do we reframe it? How do we rewrite the legislation? And how do we discuss this together en masse? And I say it's what we're doing right here.
Yeah. We were talking about that earlier, about how we could possibly do some integrations, and that's up to the dev team of when we do kind of thing like something like that. But ultimately, it does boil down to the first iteration of the software is going to be the secure voting, the identification, and the commentary. And where it goes from there is really going to be up to us, because the whole point is to make a user-centric, something that engages people with the goal of moving people from politically inactive to fully engaged. And so that's going to be a series of small steps. And so if we can just build the small steps that will move people from the touch point that's important to them, we'll say maybe your only issue of interest is education. So if we get someone on that, then that's going to be the touch point that we begin to give them the tools to move to further and further political engagement.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, we were talking about, we add social aspects to this. We add different polling, different questions, different ways to break it down into mini discussions. You were talking about breaking it down by piece of legislation, right? Here's this bill. We're going to have a debate about this bill on Tuesday, and it's going to include these experts and these opinions and these regular old citizens who have researched the bill and have something to say about it, right?
Yeah.
And we bring them in with this because this system allows us to come in with a hangout, right? But talking about place of vote, I'm going off into what comes down the line. With place of vote in general, folks, what we have here is the basis of the Democracy Act. We have a secure way for a politician at the federal level to know what his constituents are thinking, or their constituents, her constituents thinking, and to get an idea of sentiment, right? Because there's a comment section, right?
Yeah, so we'll have comments and then the votes. So as people begin to comment on the bill, so what we're looking at is our first launch, we just had bill summaries, and people said, we want to see the whole bill. So now we're adding more information so people could toggle between what they want to look at. Eventually, we want to develop something that allows us to summarize the bills, and similar to Amazon reviews, the more meaningful the commentary is or the summary is, it'll get upvoted. And so the most meaningful content will rise to the top as we as a community determine it to be valuable. And that's both pro and con, so that there's not just a one-sided discussion there. And in basic form, that's what will guide a lot of that.
All right, sounds good. I have another question for you about security, rather anonymity. What if I'm not interested in having anybody know who I am when I place my vote? Can I remain anonymous? How does that work?
Yeah, so the votes are anonymous. So what you vote, your commentary, we're looking at options between. The reality is we want it to be as open as possible. So there's always this tension between how do we build it so that if someone wants to have more anonymity, they can have that. If someone wants to be more public with their views, they can have that. And so that's constantly the evolution, is how do we do what people want in this, and that's what we're working on. So in the basic sense, you'll have options if you want it to be public or private. Your votes will always be anonymous. It'll be aggregated, so you'll see the aggregate, and then you could always audit your own vote through the public key.
Oh, wow, okay. Wow,
yeah,
that's kind of cool.
Reps, we'll tell them more aggregated data. We're not going to give them the specifics as to who says what and votes what, but yeah. But that whole auditing piece is what's really important, because you and maybe your followers, or maybe you do a call out, hey, we had this vote, this was the result, everyone audit your vote. And they send them a link, or an environmental group may push out to all their constituents, audit your vote on this issue. And then through that, you have transparency and accountability.
Awesome. That's fantastic. I love that. A couple more questions just came through. Weiss Sar says, great app. Are you aiming to help the People's Revolution to support Bernie's agenda once he is president, or is this kind of a non-candidate offering?
I like to view it as a tool. It's a tool that can be used by any constituent. It has to be we the people using it, though, and that's fundamental. So my guess is, just based on history, it's been a lot of Bernie supporters who have been really open to this. So my guess is that's going to be the impetus. That's going to be the prime mover, so to speak, or likely going to be Bernie followers.
Progressive.
Progressive, yeah.
So progressive movement. You said that's what it would be. It would be the progressive people. That this is a progressive movement. Right?
And it's interesting. I talked to one chief of staff. I'm not going to mention the representative, but he basically said, "We have this district. There's no need to even pay attention to what our voters want." So I mean, hey, he'll come around because he'll have no choice. Right. I always say that one person with the power of the voice of the nation. Can you imagine? I like to conceptualize it as a lobbyist on the House floor for the public will. So we get a representative in office. He can disaggregate the will of every district that agrees with his district, and then he can go to every one of those representatives and say, X amount of people in your district said vote no, X amount in your district said vote no, your district said vote no, and just go down the line to all 435 with the power of their constituents and voice the opinion. And at that point, everything changes. So all we need is one. It's kind of our motto. All we need is one.
Do you think that would make a difference? Do you think that would make a difference to have I mean, just theoretically, if we were able to do that, be like, you, Mitch McConnell, old gas bag, here's what your constituents actually say. Why did you vote this way? Or why are you going to vote this way?
Or before the vote.
Yeah,
before the vote. Yeah.
Why are you voting against the will of the people?
Well, they're going to have to own that, right? So they're motivated by remaining in power, and we're the source of that power. So that's the premise that we need to operate from. And if we do that consistently, if we recognize and work from the premise that we give them the power, then we're going to have voice.
Yep.
So just imagine 20,000 people in a district saying no on XYZ bill.
Mm-hmm.
That's powerful, because 20,000 people would swing any primary. They'd be fired the next year, right?
There you go. Think about it. So that's a great way to look at it strategically, is to know that you can galvanize those people. You have the record of their vote.
Yeah.
Right? One way or the other. So then somebody coming in to challenge that incumbent has this information, right? This information would be available. It should be available to them.
Yeah, if they want to opt in and they want to support representing the people, we'd happily give it to them.
So think about that, folks. This is creating. So now we're getting into something really, really cool. We've got a couple more questions that have come through, but I want to make sure I'm following the bigger picture here. Right now, we have people like Tim Canova, who can't even access the Van voter database because the DNC is refusing to give him that, saying that he is challenging the incumbent. They're the DNC. They want Debbie Wasserman, and he can't have the voter database, right? Which I think is wholly illegal and corrupt, right? It's not even democratic. You are you are building a better voter database, and the opt-in gives access.
Yeah.
That is beautiful. Think about that. You want to be a candidate for the people. You want access to this incredible voter database that's being created right here, that's going to have much more information about it than just who you are, right? Or it potentially can. It's got all of your choices, your options, what you think, folks. This is what you think. And now somebody who wants to represent you is going to go, I would like to see that data because I promise that I will represent people what they think. We now know, and we can fire them this way. We can hire them this way.
Yeah.
This is a gateway. This is a beautiful, beautiful gateway to democracy.
To representation.
Yeah.
That's all. Yeah, representation. Represent us. And here are the tools to do it effectively.
Yep. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Let's go to a couple more questions here. Ethan Klein, I think we probably answered your question, but I just want to say, so this is like an educational app that teaches stuff media ignores, like bills.
and our representatives sometimes.
Exactly. This is going to educate. You know what? That's a great way. This is going to educate us all, because our representatives really don't have a clue, and we really don't have a clue about our democracy. So we're all going to learn together, right? And we're going to learn how to write legislation that doesn't take 1,000 pages, because it shouldn't. Legislation should look like Mark Twain, as revised as frickin' possible and short and sweet.
Yeah.
You know?
Just imagine what would happen if all the resources and initiative and creativity of all of us were put towards solving problems we face as a country. It's like, blows my mind when I just take time to think about that and let that sit in. And all we're proposing to place a vote is here's a tool to start that process.
Yep. It's interesting. And it doesn't cost anything at this point, which is also amazing. So thank you very much. I just want to remind everybody what you said there makes me feel really sad, because if you want a better reminder of what it looks like when Americans do that, we have several instances like D-Day, like going to the moon in less than 10 years. We've done major accomplishments like this before, folks.
Yeah.
Just that our government doesn't want us to remember. They don't want to remember that we can rise and do this. Let me answer another couple questions here. Danny Sprache, any new updates of voter? That's about voter suppressions in Arizona. I have no idea, guys. Hang on. This is a great, very basic question that I should have addressed. Light Flyer, is this open source?
The coding? Yeah, not at this point, no.
Yeah, how is that going to function? Because I know that one of the big concerns, like Microsoft created this lovely tracker for politics, but it's Microsoft, it's closed.
Yeah.
How do we ensure that this remains, transparent?
Yeah. The biggest feature that would maintain transparency is the ability to audit your votes, because that's the biggest fear most people have, is how do we ensure what we're saying is really what's happening?
Okay.
And so millions of people auditing their votes is the best way to come about that. And when you think about, there's got to be a centralized, organized prime mover to get something like this to happen.
Yep.
Server space alone is extremely expensive.
Yep.
And so it's got to come from somewhere.
Right. I mean, that's the honest truth. I think what you're really asking here with is it open source is that at some point, folks, maybe it becomes a government thing. Probably going to have to become a government, right? And so how does that get maintained in an open way? The fact that you can log in and verify your vote, verify that it's there, and the fact that we can probably figure out some kind of provision, some kind of check, whatever, so that people make sure votes that don't exist aren't there, right? Because we talked about what if somebody comes in and makes up a bunch of votes, or like the messaging machines.
Yeah, so it really wouldn't be a feasible proposition to do that, because they need those 2 levels of verification. So I guess they'd have to get thousands of addresses, register for people in every address. So really, I look at the current political fraud and everything that goes on, and it's really a function of arbitrage. There are inefficiencies in this information market that people take advantage of. One being, if I'm a lobbyist for XYZ industry, I can go pay off 435 people and pretty much ensure that legislation is going to be passed. And if it benefits me more than I pay them, then hey, that's a great proposition. I could do that infinitely. When we shift the power back to us, and we are making the decisions, it would be cost prohibitive for them to convince us all to do things that we have to absorb the negative implications of. So at that point, there's no more incentive for corruption. So, we can even look at corruption.
Right.
There's incentives for corruption. That's why it continues.
Right.
Because we give the power, and then we hope that those we give the power do what's best for us. But then in order to maintain the power, they are accountable to someone else. So it's really an accountability. It's a break in the accountability chain. So we are the source of the power. We should be the only ones they're accountable to. And if we can realign to that, in my mind, everything is solved.
Agreed. Agreed. And we need to take this beyond the existing structure, right, folks? Think about where this goes. This is basically putting a representative in their place, going, look, today you don't need to be some elite guy with a lot of money, able to run around and do your networking and know all the high society. Okay? That doesn't need to exist anymore. What you need is to access this app, know what we're thinking, count the votes, and go represent us like you're supposed to. And where this really leads, folks, is no need for a representative.
Except for the Constitution. But
this leads to self-governance, which is exactly what we need. We don't need people put in these positions to go argue bullshit. We need to say, this is how we feel. That's a long way down the road.
Yeah.
Once we're all highly educated, education is the big crippling issue here, right? Because we all need to be educated on the issues with what's going on.
But, we have access to pretty much all the information in the world. So if we combine that access to an interest about something, I trust the masses in making a better decision more than an elite group of the few. There was a book that actually was pretty important, I think, in conceptualizing a lot of the ideas. It was called The Wisdom of Crowds, and it was written kind of to counter the conventional wisdom that crowds don't make good decisions, and actually it shows the opposite, that large groups of people are much better able to coordinate resources, much better able to come up with good solutions to complex problems, much better able to anticipate obstacles. So all of these things that we do every day when we're out and about and we're coordinating and we're functioning with other people, we self-organize. That's in our nature to do that. So let's just create tools that allow us to do that politically and see what happens is really where we're going.
Imagine that. I think that's brilliant. It's quite simple. We're capable, folks. We're capable. Imagine that. We are capable. We don't. You said one thing that makes me. This is a break in the issue. This is where we have to go. There are 24% of the people in this nation that get their information from sources that are not providing correct information, and that is part of the issue right now. Is we have 24% of the American public watching establishment media, which is a creation of the government to tell the people a narrative that is not the truth. And once we remove that from the American public's view and replace it with truth, let them know that in order to get their information on how to vote, they need to go to place a vote and find the information. That's all part of sourcing. We need to change that paradigm, because until we get Americans looking at the truth, we really can't make informed decisions, right?
Yeah. And I've found that talking to people, when I talk to someone one-on-one, I don't care what party they're in, what position they're in, when we really start talking, people want to deal with issues, but everything gets politicized. And at their core, most people reject that. So it's just a matter, it's you and I and everyone listening, it's people talking to people. And doing that, we are informing each other. So right now, there's really no incentive for people to be politically active. I'm in education full-time, and let's say there was a bill coming down related to education. I was going to have some pretty negative impact on kids. Now, with Place a Vote, I'm incentivized to go talk to all my neighbors, because I can talk to them and inform them, knowing that they have a call to action. They can go vote no on this if I give them the information.
Right.
So I can have real-world impact.
Absolutely.
As an example.
Right. Your vote counts.
Yeah.
Your vote counts. It's for the first time ever, your vote counts.
Yep.
It's amazing. We have a couple more questions here. G. Coolian says, how is the database put together? That's a big task. But isn't this just connecting directly to the one that exists?
The one, are you talking about the voter database or a database of all the legislation?
Maybe the legislation, I'm not sure.
Yeah, so basically, again, I'm not a developer, but my understanding of what's happening is a lot of this stuff is direct feeds. So Congress puts all the bills out there. We can have access to them. It's a government website that's really not too user-friendly, but we have direct feeds from all that. And so then we put it in a format that's user-friendly. Voter files, same thing. We have to subscribe to a service to basically that manages that database, and then we subscribe to that. And then we basically create the linkages.
Okay. Yeah, so there's a couple things there. I kind of figured it was an API-driven thing, that stuff is data grabbed. So API-driven base from the feds, and then the legislation database was something separate, correct? And
then our database of the voter files or the voter counts and audit ledgers and such. Yeah.
We're gonna have one of we're gonna have one of the nerdier folks come on with us and kind of talk about that.
Yeah, that'd be
right?
good. Yeah, I could probably set that up.
Awesome, fantastic. Yeah, guys, we're a bunch of nerds in the audience, and we will get. Job was one of the big thinkers on like the whole concept, educator, and we're going to get one of the nerdier nerds in here to talk about some of the details on that stuff. That's even way over my head, folks. I know about the API connectivity. Let's answer a few more questions here if you've got time, Job.
Yeah.
All right.
No, this is fun. I love it.
Wonderful, wonderful. So let's see, Casey Massey. I'm guessing this is I'm not sure where this is going here, but it's just, can you use Kickstarter or other crowdfunding? I'm assuming you guys are like, oh, that's not an issue at this point. I don't know if we need to crowdfund.
Not at this point, no.
Okay. Here's from Annie F. The Place to Vote site is going to revolutionize our country and the world at some point. So Annie F. is really excited about that. Just wanted to say.
It is.
Bozo the Clown, the state should pitch in and pay you to create this and make it open source.
Well, as soon as they get involved, it gets messy. So why don't we just do it right and then give it to them later?
I agree. And
we need to own it. I mean, meaning we the people, need to really own it and then turn it over to them when the time is right.
That's it. Turn it over. We turn it over to the government once we are certain that the government has been cleaned of corruption. Yeah. I agree. You're right. The state should own it. The government should own it at the point at which we trust the state and the government again. It does need to be owned by the people. It needs to be maintained by the people. I don't know what that looks like. You guys probably don't even know what that looks like yet. You know?
No, it's evolving. It's, like I said, the best way to conceptualize it is it's a seed that's been planted, and we're going to prune and nurture it as a community until it is the fruit-bearing tree we want it to be.
Yep, absolutely. And don't make no mistake. I just want to, for Bozo the Clown, I absolutely agree. This is something that our tax dollars would definitely go for. This is worthy of our tax dollars. Unlike 54% of our budget going towards war, this is something I could see.
Yeah.
Needed to, I'd put 54% of the budget into this. I don't think it's going to cost that, though, for some reason.
Yeah, well, you think of the most expensive thing will be the servers once a lot of people are pinging the site every day. Every congressional office has a $1.5 million annual budget to engage constituents.
Wow.
If they could license it for $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, whatever it costs to I mean, it's a minuscule fee for them, and that would more than fund it.
It absolutely is. And since we're going to move to publicly funded elections anyway, right? Eventually this is something that just becomes part of the system. It really does. Once the system is safe, once it's clean, once we've wiped our system of viruses, reformatted, new operating system, reboot, we're good, right? I think that's we're on our way. A couple more things here. Judy Meyer, will we as individuals see how many votes done on each bill? So will we get to see totals and stuff?
Yeah, and we're looking at different user interfaces and how that data is going to be represented. So that might be one of those things we toy with to find what makes the most sense to users.
Okay, great. That's a good question. That's a good question. Like, are we going to get to see totals, numbers, stats? Yeah. Like, I would love, I realize the Congress people are going to get the reps are going to get access to certain things we probably won't care about, but I would love to be able to see what is the overall sentiment on this, that, and the other, right?
Yeah, nation, state, district.
Yeah, because that will affect my, wow, 60% of the nation really feels this way? Is it, and I don't.
Yeah.
That's gonna make me wonder what's going on. Maybe I need to look at this again.
Yeah.
So, and to have it based on that data alone and not some bullshit coming from establishment media with a narrative designed to do whatever they needed to do.
Yeah.
A couple more questions here. Justin McNeil, how long until the app is? This is the big one. How long until the app is beta tested and ready for use?
So we beta tested it actually a little over a month ago. We had planned to go live beginning of February. We met with a group of, a friend of mine teaches an AP government class, so he has 200 students who are just politically active, they're engaged, they're paying attention, they're researching, they're just getting involved civically. And so I talked to him and I said, hey, let me show this to all your students. Let us do some focus testing on your kids. And so we launched the app, we let them log on. We let them try to break it. And their feedback really caused the dev team to rework the whole user interface. So that's what delayed our launch. So we got that feedback. It was really meaningful. We built on the strengths. We changed the weaknesses. And our plan is to be live in a couple of weeks, actually by the end of the month.
Awesome.
And again, remember, always keep in mind that this is a continuous cycle of improvement. So whatever is out there, we're going to keep improving it until it hits the mark that it needs to hit.
That's fantastic. Well, right. That's what as it should be.
Yeah.
Right? As it should be, a continually improving and evolving product, not something you created in 1950 and said, that's good.
Or 1746.
Right.
1776.
Do you think the language will ever need to be revised for the era?
No.
It's all good. Yeah, exactly. I just caught this, and I just need to do this for Terrence, folks. Mm-hmm. This is Terrence Strait. He's out there. He's making a comment, and I'm just gonna do this because I owe him this. Terrence is a really smart guy. Here's his website, folks. He's the U.S. House of Representatives from Maryland, District 4. All right. Terrence had a little comment in there, Job. Basically said, so government cleaned up corruption, not in our lifetime. In other words, we won't be able to. And I just want to say to that while I agree it sounds as rainbows and ponies and unicorns as Bernie Sanders' original concept, when we put something like this in place and we have politicians signing up and we're able to replace those politicians that are not, and the people start to see, I think this is going to have a cascade effect. I think this is going to. I really think we may not be able to clean up the military-industrial complex, in the next 10 years. It's going to probably take a long time, but I think we'll definitely get people in Congress that will enact legislation that will move this forward.
Yeah, it was something I remember from college in, 91. In a political science class, my professor said there was a research study that said, like, every freshman congressman, they come in enthusiastic, wanting to represent their constituency, wanting to do what's right. And within the first 6 months of being in office, the pressures of raising money, of paying back political favors, paying back political debt, gets them to the point to where they're no longer doing the thing that brought them into office. If we can give politicians, if we can give representatives the tools to do what they really are wanting to do, they want to represent people, they want to be servants. I hope that, at least. I mean, that's the optimistic side of me, that they do want to do that. Mm-hmm. But when it costs so much money to get into office,
right,
they're indebted. And the reason that I always joke that it costs so much money is because it's expensive to sell people a lie. They're trying to tell you they're going to represent you, and it costs a whole lot of money to make that desert look like beachfront property. And so
make it appear so. Does it look like I'm representing you? I'm trying really hard.
It costs me so much to do these feedback studies and surveys to see if I'm communicating that I represent you in the way you want me to. So, but what happens when the truth is on our side? The truth is free, and the power that we hold it. It's not we hold the power.
Yeah. It's right. When that's why it's so frustrating when I hear somebody like Hillary or any other candidate, anybody, say we can't do that, or that's not the way it is, or that's not how it works. Because my answer is, well, then we need to fix it.
Yeah.
Okay, then it should work that way. And if you don't think it should work that way, then we need to have a consensus about this, because I think a lot of other people don't think it should work that way. We can change this. Nothing is set. The only thing set is our indoctrination into believing we can't change things.
Look at how the internet has changed everything. Everything. I mean, it's changing education now. I look at online curriculum. You get the best teachers, the best presenters, those that can best convey information now could teach 1 million people.
Yep.
And so education is being impacted by it. Healthcare is being impacted by it. I mean, data that looks at symptoms and makes predictive diagnoses, and every industry has been affected by the internet. The last thing to be affected is politics.
Absolutely. Because what's going to happen is, as we've seen with the internet, as we've seen with social integration, with social media around the world, is that we are becoming more transparent. We are recognizing that we are one species. We are not interested in nationalism. We are banding together. Like, you know, the whole fact that we just spent the last 15 years figuring out how to be anonymous and social, and then realizing we didn't really want to, or realizing we didn't have to, or realizing, you know, I got to meet you maybe as a bluehead in YouTube, and it gave me a very different perspective of you. And then when I finally saw you, it's like, wow, that changes everything. It gives everybody kind of an even playing field, and we're starting to realize that we all think very much the same. We all want this planet to survive. We all want to love each other. We're all tired of the war. We're all tired of the greed, and we're all suffering under an oppressive establishment regime. And so this is the last thing on earth our government wanted, because this is how we govern ourselves. This is how we change everything, folks.
Government should be the servant of the people, not the other way around.
Exactly. And what Place a Vote is doing, I mean, the internet has become the means of winning the information war. We are fighting an information war between established media pipelines and the internet, plain and simple.
Yeah.
And you are creating one of the best weapons of the war, because it provides hope for the people. It shows them that there is a way to organize the democracy, to connect with your constituents. There is a way, despite what established media says, despite what the politician says. Best way for me to reach you and figure out what you want is for me to read the paper and show up every once in a while. Nope. Now, sir, you are going to know right here. And if you can't use one of these, you're not qualified to be my politician. That's basically, if you tell me, I don't really know how to get my emails on this thing, then you're old and you're a dino. Get out. All right? So this is revolutionary. This is I am very, very excited about this. Looks like Terrence Strait, for the record, I'm running a very low-cost campaign. If I can win that way, my behavior in Congress will be far different from other freshman representatives. I agree.
Yeah. Terrence is running for the House, huh?
Yeah, in Maryland, 4th District.
Have him contact us. We'd love to have him linked on our site as someone who would engage his constituents.
Terrence, there you go. And I want to say that most of the candidates of the people, the Bernie crowds, are running these low cost. None of them have any money. They're not establishment.
Yeah.
You know?
We just ran a campaign in Ohio 08, Boehner's vacated seat in the special election. We obviously didn't win, but we beat 7 of the 17 people that were running on a very low-cost campaign with very little preparation and a very small team of support.
Nice.
So that was just the beginning. And we have the candidates in California running. And like I said, every day candidates are reaching us. I'm sure we'll get more that hear about us through this, and they'll want to be a part of it. And we're happy to be that tool that helps us as a community self-organize.
It's fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for creating this. As I said, I've been looking for this. Tom's been looking for this. We've been talking about this for months. And at the beginning, it was like, okay, well, we know these coders and these coders and these guys and these guys. And they put all these little pieces together. And Tom and I and Paul were like, man, this is going to take a while. And then you show up.
Well, we've been doing this since 2013.
Well,
in November 2013 it started.
So it has taken a while.
So we ran the first. I was a candidate in 2014 in California with another guy named John Catano, and he and I ran on this platform, and all we had was a landing page with 10 points of what we wanted to do to change things, and it's since evolved quite a bit.
Wow.
You can go to that throwback internet and probably find it. You know that website where you can search old domains. Look 2014 for Place a Vote, and it'll be our declaration, so to speak.
It's the Internet Archive. But I prefer the Wayback Machine.
The Wayback Machine. That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. We go there. We'll find it. That's great. Fantastic. Do you have anything else? We're gonna have you on anytime you want. You guys have an open mic to come back on, talk about this. We're gonna be working with you, hopefully doing some debates. The Iowa debate with Tom and everybody. But what else? Anything you want to tell anybody right now about this that we can help you? How can we help you?
Log on to Place a Vote, sign up. There's a chat there. We all manage it, the whole team. So if you have questions more specific, you can ask via the chat. The main thing is to register. It's just a landing page now, but when you're registered, you'll get access as soon as we go live. So that's the first thing. The second thing is show up to vote. I know I don't have to tell your listeners that, but that is the most powerful thing we can do is vote. And when we realize the power that we wield, if we actually do it with a purpose, know who your congressman is first. Most people don't. But remember, that's 1/3 of the government. We could change everything. Every 2 years, we have an ability to change everything. So I say we just take advantage of that. We keep this momentum going. Things are going to change. It's evident. There's going to be a change, and it doesn't take a whole lot. I'm a student of the American Revolution, and early on it was interesting. Paul Revere was a hub of information. He was a part of multiple different groups that were meeting in pubs and talking about how are they going to be represented. And here we are 300 years later, almost 300 years later, having the same conversation. How are we going to be represented? And I mean, we have a format. We know it's communication, it's collaboration, it's standing up, and we can do a lot.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is anybody who tells you it's not happening, that the revolution isn't happening, that we haven't already made massive change, it's in motion, folks. The wave's happening. Change has happened.
Yeah.
This is not something that can be stopped. We will be fixing our democracy. We will be evolving our democracy. And Place a Vote isn't going anywhere. And politicalrevolution.tv isn't going anywhere. We are going to make these things happen. This is exactly like you said. I love the fact that you talk about the founding fathers and Paul Revere kind of being that network hub, right? And the internet is the extension of that. It's a 21st century version of that, where we have different hubs and different people that provide centralized information and gathering places, and we have groups of experts meeting over here and radicals meeting over there. But it's all happening in Facebook and on Google Plus and on YouTube and on Twitter, and this is how we're we can't work within the confines of the establishment pipelines. We do it where we live, which is the internet.
And just so in that sense, Place a Vote is a tool that gives people a call to action from whatever background they're coming from. And it's interesting. I challenge everyone to talk to someone who has a different view than yourself, and you will be surprised once you begin to talk to them about the issue of representation that we are all aligned on that front. And if we can at least get that seed planted that we are going to be represented, it's going to be wonderful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Job, thank you so much for joining us here on the newsroom. We'll talk after this. And everybody, placeavote.com. Go there, sign up. Let's take back our government. Thank you so much, Job, for being with us.
All right, thank you. And pass my info on to others interested candidates.
Absolutely will. Everybody that we've had on We the People will be getting a note.
Awesome. All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. That Job Melton, founder, creator of placeavote.com, one of the pieces of the app for democracy, the primary piece, in my opinion, of the app for democracy. So fantastic to have him doing that, to have that team available. All sorts of things like that going on. This is a political revolution, folks. This isn't an election cycle. This stuff didn't happen in 2008. We didn't have this kind of stuff in 2008. We didn't have this stuff in 2000. We didn't have thousands of people in the streets marching for a candidate. We didn't have entire software platforms being created so that we could depose our establishment government. This is a political revolution. This is not an election. I'm so glad to be here with you. We have 3 states voting today. I'm just checking to see what's going on. Hi, Jesse. Hi, Bad. You guys are still in here. How many people we got watching? 250 plus. Wonderful. Hi. Thank you for joining. Great message about placeavote.com. Here's what we're going to do, guys. I know I called this the Screamathon. I know I did. But the problem is we're not going to get results for like hours and hours and hours and hours. I forgot about that. I forgot that this is a West Coast event and not a East Coast event or a mid event. So we would have a long time to sit here and do nothing. So what I really want to do is break this up into chunks. We've got a rally coming up at 8 p.m. West Coast time. A rally in San Diego at 8 p.m. West Coast Pacific time. We will be broadcasting that. We're going to do a stream-a-thon, or we're going to come on live before that with a whole other chunk of stuff. But this right here, what we've just done right here, I'm going to close off at the hour. I'm going to need a little break. Give me a couple hours. Then we're going to come back with a whole nother stream-a-thon. But this was such a great conversation with Job Melton from Place a Vote that I would rather just lock this up in a wrap, put a new title on this, and leave it as it is. If you guys will hang with me, we're going to go through some news real quick, talk about some important information, but give me a little bit to come back. We'll do the stream-a-thon again and carry it on into the rally, into the night. But I really messed up starting this now because I forgot that all the results happen way later. And I was so eager to talk to Joe. I was like, can you come on at noon? Can you come on at noon, please? And he's like, sure. And I was like, oh, crap. We won't have anything to talk about for like 8 hours. I don't know how I would sit here for 8 hours waiting for somebody to talk about. So that's what we're going to do. I hope you don't mind. What are you guys saying here? I have a lot of good footage. So we're going to go through a lot of fun footage. I have an interview with Makana and a private concert. I have some TYT footage, Democracy Now! Footage, Humanist Report, Secular Talk. We're going to go through a whole bunch of great footage, maybe some documentary stuff we haven't looked at, some new Bernie videos. We'll go through all of that stuff later. Right now, here's what you need to know. Here are the big important notes, okay? Utah, Idaho, Arizona, get out the vote. Get off your couch. Go find your friends. Go do what you need to do for Bernie Sanders and the democracy, all right? We need you now. This is your turn. When it's my turn, this isn't going to be running. I'm going to be in line to do what I need to do. Actually, we vote by mail. Mine's already returned in. But you guys, Arizona, Idaho, Utah, we need you. If you are tired of the establishment government ruling your life, then vote for Bernie Sanders so we can change how our government functions. We've got systems being built. Place a vote. We've got this system. We've got all sorts of things being readied for the 21st century democracy of the people. We just need you to vote. All right? Excuse me, folks. I also need to get a replacement of tea. I just can't operate without my tea. So, what? Who's upset and why? They're already lining up in San Diego for the rally? Fantastic. Fantastic. Go take a nap, Jay Vintage. I will. Actually, what I need to do is just put together content. I don't have enough content to sit here and talk to you for that long. That's the problem. It's like I can go on and on and on, but you get really bored with what I have to say. I need enough content to fill in the gaps. So yeah, lobster biscuits. I could. I maybe we'll do some lobster biscuits. I don't know. I'll see what I have to make later. Let me just make sure there's not any notes in live production I have to go over. Okay, we're all good there. Great. Let me make sure there isn't any important information I want to talk about. Oh yeah. We're going to be going over this when I start back up, but there's a new report that has been released and then kind of verified again by some scientists on climate change. And the news is not good. The news is pretty bad, actually. And it centers around a couple points, one being that the climate models that we're looking at are based on the concept of something being linear or relatively linear and stable. Or even if it's exponential, it's stable. But none of the climate models take into account what's really going on. So that's scary. And then when you take that fact and add it to what we're seeing with some of the places around the world, what we're looking at in the next 50 years is going to be a hell of a lot worse by these calculations than what everybody has said to date. Because none of the models from the 70s took into account messed up numbers. They were all based on an even change in climate, and that's not how the climate works, we're realizing. So that's bad news. We'll be talking about that later. Good news, Bill Clinton, major gaffe. So if you haven't seen that, go find Bill Clinton's major gaffe and share it around because he really did that. We need to push that around. Bernie Sanders is set to win the next 8 states. This is according to Nate Silver. So you want positive? You want to be positive? There's positive. We're going to win the next 8 states. The toughest one, my understanding, is Arizona. And based off what I've seen, people feeling the burn in Arizona, I think we're going to be okay. So 8 states. We're going to sweep them, folks. There's your positive right there. Stand strong. Stand Bernie strong. Rise if you're in Arizona, Utah, and Idaho, and prove me right that we're going to win 8 states. Nate Silver says we're going to win 8 states. That's what I'm talking about, right? Here's what he says right here. 8 states. All right? It's good news. It's good news. The revolution may not be televised, but Bernie Sanders is going all the way. He has the momentum. We just got through the hard part. We're just about to hit the easy part for us. States that are really more in our favor. Hillary is looking worse and worse. Her favorability rating down the tubes. Bill Clinton making mistakes left and right. Hillary's emails, if you haven't looked at them, WikiLeaks Hillary's emails, indexed, find what you'd like. All sorts of great stuff in there about what she really thinks of the American people and how she puts money, profit, warmongering above everything else as head of the State Department. So enjoy that. Let's see, what else we got? But will he win by 60%? Yes, he will, Heisenbernie. He's actually slated to win by more than that in the 8 states, most of them. The numbers are pretty high. It's like 75, 80. One of the states is like 91%. It's pretty. He's slated to kick some serious ass. We're not talking that 60-30 thing. These are like some serious ass kicking state numbers. I want everybody to remember. And yes, there was a Politico Slam article that came out that actually lied and misrepresented delegate numbers, but that's Politico, and they have no integrity whatsoever. They're just shilling for Hill. I want everybody to remember that Obama was behind in delegates, desperately behind in delegates. Everybody was saying Obama was not going to win, that Obama should drop out, that Obama was not going to do it. Obama didn't beat Hillary in delegates until July. July. So the establishment media machine that keeps saying, oh, Bernie should drop out, they need to not say that. This isn't the newsroom. This is Iran Bridge. Yeah, basically, they're lying. They just want us to quit. And if we quit now, we're stupid. We're right there. Like, hands on the cliff. Reach up. We're done. Okay? We're in a good place. We're in a great place. We have the support of the world. Democrats abroad. We have the support of the world. People don't even live in the United States. Bernie has worldwide support. No other candidate can claim that. The rest of the world pretty much hates Hillary Clinton unless they're paying her for favors. The people in the rest of the world pretty much hate Hillary Clinton unless they're making money off her. Right? So we're in a great shape, folks. We are in great shape. Canadians support Bernie. Woo! Yeah. Africans, yeah. Again, we'll talk about climate changes. Those were the chances of winning the states, not the margin of victory. Okay, so Bernie's chances of winning the states, you're right, absolutely. I was giving you the chances of winning. They're very high. However, I still think the margin of victory is going to be very high based on what we've seen in terms of turnout and support. We'll see. All right, we'll see. If these states can get out to vote, if we can have an overwhelming win. We know that Bernie Sanders has the youth vote, which they call 30 and under. He has more than Hillary and Trump combined. So we need to get the young off the couches and to the voting places today. Do it now for your country. Do it for your children. Do it for the planet. We have one chance, one person, Bernie Sanders. We either do this right or we're done. We don't need a time machine. None required. We can take care of all of this right now. No need to go back and fix mistakes. We've got a brand new system being put in place. Okay? It's what we're doing, folks. What else? What else? Oh, I will be running this Bernie Sanders versus Barack Obama. It's like a 23-minute piece from the Young Turks. A lot of respect for Jang. By the way, Democracy Spring, we'll talk about that. We are going to be there with live view units from the beginning of that all the way to the end. I'll talk about that when we start the streamathon again. But I just got off a very exciting phone call before we started this event with Peter from the Democracy Spring Group, and we are going to work together. I believe Free Speech TV is going to be involved. I know TYT is involved. We're going to broadcast this like an Olympics, and we're going to cover the whole thing with live view units, and we're going to bring you the Democracy Spring. It's going to be incredible. I am so excited. It's going to be like the biggest thing. It's going to be badass. Establishment media is not going to cover it, and we're going to need your help to blast this thing all over the web, right? Anonymous and Occupy, this one would be a great one to jack the satellite with if you were working on that. I know I'd asked you about that before. People keep telling me it's not possible. I know it's possible. Don't say it. We can't. Of course we can. We could do anything we want. We are the people. We want to go to the moon? We can. We want to hijack a satellite? We can. We want to replace our democracy? We can. Do whatever we want. It's our planet. Right? Vote.berniesanders.com if you don't know where to go and what to do. That's what's going to tell you. What else did I want to cover? Hey, that's about it. Oh, did you know that Hillary's claim that the majority of her donations come from small donors and people is just absolute bullshit? It's actually about 17%. PolitiFact did a check on that. She's full of shit. 17%. 99.9 something of Bernie Sanders it comes from individual donors. Hillary, I don't know what you're talking about. She's trying to be like Bernie. It's really sad and pathetic. All right. I guess I didn't have an actual thing loaded to run to close this out with, and I feel really bad. Like we're here talking about this. Yes, Armand, I said hijack a satellite. What I want to do is take one of our streams, like the Democracy Spring. It would be really great if we could take the Democracy Spring broadcast at like a pinnacle moment and just inject it into primetime television. It's like everybody watching their shows, watching CBS Evening News, watching Wolf Blitzer read you the tragedies of the world, but without any emotion. And we interrupt your boring establishment bullshit program to bring you a little democracy truth. That's what I want to do. I want to wake the 24% of America that is asleep at the wheel, drooling as they watch establishment media. I want them to go, what? What happened? Did aliens land? Why is this on my prime time? What happened to Wolf Blitzer? Who's that weird guy in a sweatshirt? That's what I want them to do. Or maybe they see an anonymous face. I don't know. I just want to wake them up. I want to inject a little truth into the primetime stream. They screw up our truth all the time. And they wipe out things on the internet whenever they feel like it. So I think we should tap into that. It's a little 21st century civil disobedience. Okay? It's not going to do any harm. It's not going to hurt anybody, but it's definitely going to get a message out over the pipelines that's a message of truth. All right? That's what I want to do. Right? I know it's possible. I know it's possible. I know we have people smart enough to do that. Let's see if we can't load up an actual closing song. And I'm feeling very nerdy right now. And I'm very happy about everything that's going on. I can't tell you how excited I am about the fact that we are connected with Place a Vote. I've been looking for this. We've been wanting this. The architecture for all of it, for the app for democracy, all the pieces, they're coming together. This is going to happen, folks. We are replacing our ancient government. We're going to do it because we want to and we can. If the establishment isn't interested, we're going to fire them. That's how democracy works. So thank you for being here with me. We're going to go out with the Color Bars, which is still my all-time favorite happy song. But this is End of the Corporate Age by the Color Bars. Because once we remove the corruption from our government and sever the ties of corporations from our government and return the government to being about the people, we are going to end the corporate age, and we're going to bring about the age of the people, an age of transparency, an age of peace, of education and understanding. It's going to be a great world, but it starts with putting Bernie Sanders in office. So please, Arizona, Utah, Idaho, please vote today. Vote to save the planet. Vote for Bernie Sanders. Feel the burn, everybody. We'll see you in a few hours once I get my shit together for a streamathon.
The wealthiest people of this country have seen a tremendous increase in their income.
while at the same time the standard of living of working people and poor people has declined. CEOs make more than 500 times of what their workers make. The middle class is shrinking. Poverty is increasing, while at the same time the people on top are doing phenomenally well.
People always tell me that you're wasting your time. Can't you see the monolith is immobile? Yes, I tell them kindly, still I've made up my mind. 'Cause the sky above's as big and limitless as it ever was. Gather round people in the town square. It's the end of the corporate age. There's a new caveat at the center where this is the end of the corporate age. There's no quick and easy remedy that won't end in more calamity.
This is a fantastic time. From my standpoint, this is the best time that I've ever had.
All the bloviators keep on spreading the meme that there's only so much room at the table, telling us we're lucky to be eating the scraps, but we've got all the facts and we're taking our places back.
Billionaires shouldn't be allowed to hide in the shadows. Make them step out in the open where the American people can see.
Gather round people in the town square. It's the end of the corporate age. There's a new caveat at the center where this is the end of the corporate age.
We are well on our way to seeing our great country move toward an oligarchic form of government.
There's no quick and easy remedy that won't end in more calamity.
Corporate America, Wall Street, the major campaign donors are so powerful that no president can take them on unless tens of millions of people say, guess what, Washington? You are going to start representing the needs of working families and the middle class, not just the billionaire class. We know what's going on. We are paying attention.
Town square, end of the corporate age. New caveat, everywhere. End of the corporate age.
Huge